I'm Spencer Gilbert.
And I'm Roth Cornett, and this is our review of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, opening on November 18th.
You're the guy with the case full of monsters, huh?
News travels fast.
First of all, thank you for joining me, Spencer. Dan is out today, but you are the perfect person to be doing this because you are the world's biggest Harry Potter fan, I think.
Well, I'm a pretty serious pothead, so it's an honor and a privilege to see this movie early and be able to talk about it.
Well, so as a big, I'm also a huge Potter fan. So as a big Potter fan, what were your expectations? Did you go in there, you think, are we able to be objective about this?
No. I brought into this a lot of pro-Potter baggage, and I left not disappointed, but just mildly pleased.
Okay. I would say the same, that I don't think that I have the ability to be rational about this world because I love it so much and I really want to be immersed in it. At the same time, I was so invested in the books by the time the Harry Potter movie started to come out that I don't know that I've ever really distinguished one from the other totally, if that makes sense. It's just sort of all part of the big wizarding world. With that said, I did love going back into it.
I love going back into the wizarding world in general, but it did stress to me the importance of the characters that I grew up with. And this is a Harry Potter movie with no Harry Potter, with no Hermione, with no Ron, with no Snape, with no Dumbledore, aside from a little Easter egg. But this is something that you are starting from scratch, basically, and you're starting with full-grown adults who come in fully formed. You're no longer 13 watching 13-year-olds on screen. We're adults watching adults. And I don't know if these characters got their hooks in me the way the original cast did.
So just to give it a little bit of context, I think that probably most people watching know this, but this story is a prequel. It is set in the 20s. This is following Newt, who wrote the textbook Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, that Ron and Harry and Hermione used at Hogwarts, right? So this story didn't exist before the movie. A textbook existed. And J.K. Rowling wrote this film. So I think a lot of us had a ton of faith in it because the author of the original books also wrote the screenplay. Did you feel that? Did you sort of feel her presence in this?
I felt that this was her first screenplay.
Okay.
She creates a beautiful world. America does expand the wizarding world to a whole new realm, literally. In terms of pacing and some dialogue, I don't know, it was a little hit or miss for me.
So we should also say that David Yates, who directed From the Order of the Phoenix on in the Harry Potter films, directed this film. And this is what's interesting to me. One is that I felt this was actually very much aimed towards kids. There's some creatures in here that are frankly adorable, and they are clearly gearing up to make some dolls that I will not say that I'm not going to buy, but I'm not going to buy them.
A lot of Niffler plushes are going to fly off the shelves in Christmas.
Niffler plushies will be a thing, that's for sure. So that's one thing. I think that we have to separate ourselves a little bit and say that maybe to some degree, like you said, we are adults watching this. But is it aimed for us, or is it aimed for a new generation of kids to bring into this world?
I guess it's, I felt that this was a more adult movie than you, I guess, because there's so much darkness and tension that's gripping America, or the American wizards, that it really reminded me more of Goblet of Fire or Deathly Hallows than it did, you know, the first Potter films, which were they were sumptuous, they were warm, they were inviting. This is a cold world that we're being dropped into.
Yeah, I would agree. And this is where I really actually felt J.K. Rowling's presence is sort of the subtext and thematically what she was laying here. And this is a spoiler-free review, so I won't get into too much about that. But certainly she explores a lot about human nature, fanaticism in the books in a way that I don't think ever really played out fully in the movie. I mean, of course, there were, you know, the Dark Wizards.
Dolores Umbridge and the pure blood versus mudblood stuff. But yeah, America's really high-strung. And I want to get away from that right now. But instead, in the theater, I was just shown a more puritanical, high-strung version of the America I live in today.
Yeah, it's true. And it is interesting because it was almost like there were two different films going on for me, right? There was one where Dan Fogler, who plays a no-mage or muggle in this film, is really a standout. He's hilarious. He is joyful. He feels completely tonally in line with what I expect from the wizarding world. There's some great animals and creatures and the fantastic beasts that we get to meet. Some, I think, worked a little better in terms of the CGI than others.
I agree. Some of them look like brand new original creations that you want to hug. Some of them look like existing animals with weird testicles on their head. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Dan Fogler was also the standout to me. This guy, he's like Josh Gad with depth. He's funny, but there's also like a kind of sadness to him and a sweetness. He plays the comic relief and kind of the moral center of the story.
Absolutely. Having said that, I do think I will have to agree with you about the pacing. There were certain moments in the film that felt like they just could have been tightened up and moved faster. Had they been, I feel like this whole film would have felt tighter. It would have felt more engaging. We would have felt more swept away in this story instead of a little bit slogged down in the mires of it. We return to one particular moment, I think, between two characters 3 or 4 different times, where one character is looking for something and then he's looking for it again and he's like, by the way, did you find my thing yet? And at a certain point, you just felt like, okay, I'm not sure exactly why we're returning to this again and again, but then by the end of the film, and again, no spoilers here, there's a reveal that pays that off and is leading to what's next. With that in mind, are you looking forward to the next film in this franchise?
I mean, yes and no. I'm looking forward to it because I think by necessity we're going to get something very different from this film. This did not feel like part 1 of 5. And I think that's a pro and a con because on the pro side, it's a complete story. It has a beginning and a middle and an end, and it's a fun one-off adventure. On the con side, it didn't really get me invested in a expansive new world full of possibilities the way the original Harry Potter movies did. I feel like this was a fun standalone adventure, and the second one will also be a fun standalone adventure.
I feel a little bit differently than you. I feel like, and this is something we'll talk about next week when we can get into spoilers a little bit more, I think that this is actually setting us up for a more in-depth character study that will play out for a couple of films, but we'll see. Final thoughts.
Sure. Well, speaking of character study, I love Eddie Redmayne in this. He carries the movie pretty damn well. He's likable. He's adorkable. He's got some issues and some past stuff that he alludes to that isn't fully explored. So I'd follow him. I'm wondering where his Ron is, or where's his Hermione, where's his Dumbledore, where is the surrounding cast of characters that he can grow and change with. And I just didn't feel that. I felt like this was a spin-off, a good spin-off, but a spin-off.
Okay, I will say that I think in total the cast was really outstanding. I mean, you have some really great actors in this film. Samantha Morton, Ezra Miller, who I think is a tremendous actor.
Good Colin Farrell, not bad Colin Farrell.
It was really good.
You don't know
Colin
which one's
Farrell.
gonna show up. Yeah.
I like Colin Farrell.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll defend SWAT, but he's made some weird choices.
Sure, but then he's made some great, excellent choices like The Lobster, and he certainly is willing to take risks as an actor. Maybe this is another fun debate for us to have at a different point, but this was great Colin Farrell. I do agree that Eddie Redmayne is ultimately on his own in this world, and he probably does need some supporting players moving forward to move along with him that we can also attach to, right? Because everybody's got their favorite from the Harry Potter world. Do you identify with a Hermione or a Ron?
I go more Draco than anyone.
I would say you're a straight up Harry Spencer. Okay, moving on. My final thoughts are, yes, buy your ticket for this movie. If you are a fan of the Harry Potter universe, you are going to be swept away into this world because you just can't help it. If you're anything like me, anything that brings you into the world of magic is ultimately a good thing, even if it's not quite as captivating as the original Harry Potter films were. Again, having said that, I was already attached to the books. I have no clue if I would have been as invested in those films as I ultimately was if I wasn't already so deeply in love with the books.
Yeah, I gotta say, buy it as well. If you are looking for an enjoyable action adventure with magic that's fun for the whole family, go ahead. But if you're expecting it to change your life the way Harry Potter changed my life, maybe stay home.
And those are our final thoughts. You can talk to us on Twitter about your thoughts about Fantastic Beasts. I'm at Roth Cornett.
I'm at Spencer J. Gilbert.
And you can always tweet at SJ News.
Peace.
Expelliarmus.
Thanks for watching Screen Junkies News. You can click, select, tap, whatever you want. The box is on screen to watch even more Screen Junkies News, and don't forget to click the logo to subscribe.